Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a guest post over at the Paper Nest Dolls blog, and for my image I chose this super cute Good Witch Avery. I'm also going to be making her into a kit for the store, so if you'd like to see if she's available, head over to the store and I'll put a link down in the description box. I'm just waiting for stamps to arrive. I have the kits all cut out and ready to put in the store. I just need the stamps to pop into the bags. So I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's color. So I'm going to start by outlining my image, and for that I'm going to use C0, and I'm just going to go completely around the image. So I'm going to start right down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to, and she's got a little space right here in between where her hair is. You can see the background, so I'm going to do that. But nothing too technical. I'm just taking my pen and running it down the side and giving it about a quarter of an inch line, maybe. And if you do it first, then you don't have to worry about if you get some on the girl, you can go back and erase that with the Colorless Blender. And plus it's so light that it won't be a problem if you get some on there. I'm just going to go all the way down like this. So, whoops, it helps if you move the picture up, huh? So I'm going to went all the way around, and then for the ground, I'm going to use C1 and C0. So I'm going to go ahead and just add some ground. So I'm going to take my C1 and I'm just going to go underneath the purse skirt and out this side. And then I'm going to take my C0 pen and I'm just going to go lightly over the top of that and go past, so I'm going out into the white of the paper and softening that line, and to give her something to stand on. Okay, sorry about that. That was the FedEx man, so the dogs were freaking out. So let's go do her skin next. So I'm going to use my favorite skin tone at the moment, which is E21, E00, E000, and the cheeks are R20 and R30. There are a few others listed on my blog if you want to go over there under Copic Skin Tones and try some out. This is just my favorite one. So we're going to start with E21, and we're going to go right next to her sleeve. And we're going to go right along the bottom of her arm, or her hand. And we're going to go down like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit right here by her sleeve and up underneath her neck. And the dogs have decided they need to come in and check out what I'm doing in here, talking to myself. And then next we're going to grab E00. And I want to touch down on top of my E21. And I'm just going to very lightly pull out here into my white of my hand. Just drag that little bit of that color away from the line and soften it up. And we'll do the same thing up here. Just work my way around there and soften that. Then I'm going to take my E000 and fill that in. Do her neck. And then we're going to go up here and do her face. So again, I'm going to grab E21 first. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a small little line all the way around. Just like this. And we'll do the same thing up here. And of course I'm going to do on this side. I'm going to go around this little crown she's got there. Then I'm going to do a little bit right above her nose. Then I'm going to grab E00 and I'm going to soften my line. So I'm going to touch down on top of my E21 and I'm going to very lightly pull that line away and out into the white. And I'm not too worried about softening it all the way right this time because I'm going to actually go over it again after I add her cheek color on. So I'm just laying down a little bit of color. And then I'm going to grab E000. And we'll add a little bit more color on top of that. And let's fill this section in. So for me, it's looking very blotchy, but that's fine because we're going to go over it again here in a minute. So I'm going to add some rosy cheeks, and for that I'm going to grab R20. And let's give her a cheek right here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to make a little circle. Then I'm going to take R30, and I'm going to go along the edge and make it just a little bit wider. Do this side just a little bit more. Now I'm going to go back with my face color again, so I've grabbed E21, and I'm going to turn it sideways so I can flick a little bit better. And I lay my pen more on the side and touch down right next to the edge of the line, and I'm flicking out past the last line that I laid down. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And if you want to, you could turn your girl around and go the other way, whichever way is easiest for you to flick. I'm just trying to keep her in one space here for you. Next, I'm going to grab E00, and I want to lay down on top of that color that I just put down and flick out past that color. I actually want to go right over the top of that cheek. And we're going to do the same thing for this side. We'll go right over the top of that cheek and go down here and do chin, and I want to go over this little section up here one more time because I'm trying to soften that line this time. I don't want to have a harsh line there. Now I'm going to finish it up with my E000. And we'll just pull from the side out here and maybe go over this top part a little bit because I've got a little bit of a line showing right there still. And then after that dried, if you thought her cheeks were a little too diluted, you would just go back over with your R20 and R30 and flick over those one more time. So for her hair, we're going to use E55, 53, 51, and 50. And I'm going to start with my E55 and add some shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this side right over here. And I'm going to put just a little bit right next to her crown. Same for right here on this side where it's coming out from underneath of her crown. We want to add a little bit of color there. And right here where it folds back behind her other hair, give that a little dab. You could also do right next to the barrette. I'm trying to do just a little bit so I leave a little bit of space in there. Okay, and then we're going to go down here, and right here this hair is dipping down underneath. So I'm going to add a little bit of my shadows right there. Same for this one where it goes behind her shoulder there. And then right here next to her neck, I'm going to add some color. And on this side where her hair is coming out from underneath of that other one, just going to work my way down here towards the bottom. And then right here in between her dress and her sleeve, you can see her hair. And then we're going to do these, I want to do the tips, because they always kind of bend inward. Like that. And then of course I'm going to go do this side. So I want to get this one where it's coming out from underneath of her little crown. And we're just going to work our way along the side, clear down. And then this one looks like it's going underneath. Her little bang looks like it kind of tucks underneath, so I'm going to give that a little dab. And then down here where it goes behind this other hair. And of course we want to get the ends because they're dipping in. Right here she's got a little bit of hair showing in between her dress and her arm. And behind her neck. Okay, that's looking pretty good for E55. So now let's switch to E53. And I'm going to go back over to this side. And I want to touch down on top of my 55 and pull just a little bit of that color with my 53. And back here behind her dress, I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. So it's not going to be very much room down there. Just work our way down towards the bottom. And right here I'm going to fill in between her arm, in right there. And then I'm going to pull up the bottoms of her hair here. And we're going to go over here and we're going to do this side. And again, I'm going to fill in right here behind her head and where her sleeve is. And this one's pretty small, so I'm going to fill that the rest of the way in. Then I'm going to grab E51. We're going to go back to this side. I'm actually going to fill this the rest of the way in because there's not much room left. And we'll add some streaks over here. Just continue working that color. And then we're going to fill it in with E50. Okay, so I go ahead and go back over the sections I already did, just so I can soften my lines a little bit more. And we do this side. You could also leave some white spaces in there. That's just not my personal preference. I always like to fill it all the way in. But if you like that, you just go ahead and leave some on there. And then after I've colored her hair all the way in, I like to go back and add some dark strands back in. So I'm going to grab my E55 again. And this time I hold my pen more straight up and down. And I just very lightly go with the tip of my pen and add some streaks. And I go past the colors that E55 I've laid down the first time. Looks good for that side, so let's do this side too. And let's get a little bit right in here. Like that. So now let's work on her dress and this cute little hair barrette. And for that we're going to use BG 57 and 53 for the hair barrette. So I'm going to start with my 57. So I've got BG 57. I'm just going to add a little dab on each side of the barrette. And then I'm going to grab BG 53 and fill that in. And that's all there was for that. Then we're going to go down here and we're going to work on her dress. So again, I'm going to start with BG 57. And let's go ahead and give the inside of these little swoops a little color. And I'm going to go ahead and go right along the edge of my dress and up these little lines. Just got a little pleat right there. Then I'm going to grab my BG 53. And I want to brush right over the top of those little indentations. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Well, I'm going to go right next to her sleeve this time a little bit. So I've got a little bit of shadow from her sleeve right there. Now, I want to use my BG 10. So for that, I'm going to take my BG 53 and I'm going to take BG 10 and wipe it onto the BG 53 and pick some color up. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to place it on top of my BG 53 on the girl. And we're just going to use this color to bridge that gap to come up here to the top of her dress. So I'm going to pick up some more color. And I just want it to run out, so by the time I get to the up here to the very top of her sleeve, I've got BG10. And let's do down here. It's just if you went from BG53 to BG10, it wouldn't, there's too much of a difference, and you'd have a huge harsh line. Okay, that looks pretty good for the top there. So let's put those down. And we're going to go down here and we're going to do the skirt. So again, I'm going to start with BG57. So let's go and do each of these little pleats. So I'm just going to go, and I'm going to try not to get any on the stars there because BG57 is pretty dark and my yellow is not going to cover that up. On this side, and here's a little wrinkle right here. And she's got another little spot just above her arm right there. We're just going to work our way down to the bottom. I just want to add some shadows in to each of these little creases. Okay. Then I'm going to take BG53 and I want to go over the top of that line and spread it out just a little bit. So let's say it's about double the size now. I just want to soften the edge of that line. All the way down here. Same thing for these. Okay, now same thing, I want to use my BG10, but it's not going to bridge the gap, so I'm going to tip to tip it. I'm going to pick up some of my color right off the edge, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to go right down the edge of that BG53 and add some of this color in there. I just want to go on each of those lines and extend those out. Work our way clear across to the other side. And I wasn't worried about getting color on the little dots because I'm going to go ahead and put some liquid pearls on top of those after I get it all colored. So if you color those in, don't stress over it. Okay, and this very last one over here. So pick up a little bit more. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of her dress with just the BG53. I'm just going to go up here, oops, and work my way across the dress. So again, I'm going to try not to color those little stars. Dots, not worried about. Stars, I want them to be yellow. So, but if you do get some on there, you could just take your colorless blender and color over them, scrub it off. BG10 is pretty light. You shouldn't have a problem erasing it. Just go all the way down here towards the bottom. And even if you color that stick, that's not going to matter because we're going to color that brown. And I feel my lines are still pretty harsh, so I'm going to go back and flick over them just one more time. like that. So now we're going to go up here and we're going to work on our crown, and for that I'm going to use BG53, BG10, and my colorless blender. So I'm going to start with BG53, and I'm going to tip it more on the side so I can hold my pen more at a sideways angle, and just lay my pen down on the edge. Whoops, I went outside the lines there, and just flick towards the middle. And this way it's thicker at the edge. And as I pull out towards the middle, my hand automatically lifts up. And so my line's not so thick out here. And I'm going to turn around the other way. I'm going to do the other side. Same thing. I'm just going to lay my pen down right here on the edge. And do kind of like a little check mark. That's what it feels like to me when I'm flicking it, as it feels like I'm going to make a check mark. Like that. And then again, it's BG10's too far away, so I'm going to tip it. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my BG53 on my BG10. And we're just going to add some of this color right along this edge. Add a little bit more here. That looks pretty good. I'm going to flip her around so I can do this side. Just work our way right along the edge. Okay, now I'm going to bring this color into the middle here and put down my BG53. So I want to go ahead and bring this color all the way across, and this is BG10. I just want to connect my sides. Go up here and get in between these little crown here. Okay, now I've got the whole thing colored. Now I'm going to take my colorless blender, and just to soften it a little bit, I'm going to take my colorless blender and flick from the side out here into the middle. And it doesn't matter if you go over this little star because we haven't colored it yet. I'm going to try not to get outside the line because up here, remember, we colored our outline in. Okay, I like that. So now let's color some yellow. So next we're going to color the star and this little accent on her crown. And for that we're going to use Y21, Y13, and Y11. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Y21. And I'm going to add some dark shadows out here on the sides. And I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit to my star. Like that. Then I'm going to grab Y13. I'm going to bring that towards the middle. I left a little bit of white there. I'm going to take Y11. And we're going to fill in this little star. And I'm going to fill in this little section right in the middle of her crown. That's all there was to that. So let's go down here and do her sleeves. And again, I've grabbed Y21. And I want to add a little bit of shadow underneath of her sleeve and along the bottom of her arm. She's got a couple little wrinkles right here, so I'm going to go ahead and do those too. Go right along the bottom of this side. And she's also got a little couple where you can see the underside. I'm going to just dab those a little bit. Oh, whoops. And let's do this little bodice thing she's got right here. Okay, and then we're going to grab Y13. Add a little bit on top. Soften those little lines a little bit. And then I'm going to fill it in with my Y11. And then for my little stars on her dress and her little star that she's holding right here, I'm going to use Y11 and I'm just going to color those in. and it is a little bit darker, so if you colored your stars on accident, this will help cover them. You'll still be able to see it a little bit, but not quite so bad because it's a little bit darker. And like I said, the dots, I'm going to put some perfect pearls on, or some liquid pearls on top. So that leaves us with her little wand stick right here, and for that I'm going to use E44, and I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to color that in. But it is pretty small, so you want to be careful and just use the tip of your marker, or else you're going to be coloring outside the lines. Alright, so that is Good Witch Avery. I hope you had fun coloring with me today, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.